Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast tactical video. Today we'll look at the tactics and strategy and special rules of the new Homunculus Coven supplement book. Let's get this started. Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast tactical video. Today we're looking at the use and role of the Coven book within the new 7th edition. We're going to touch on special rules, formations, and the detachment included in this book, and how to best mesh it with the Dark Eldar Codex, which was released in November. So, let's get this started. It'll be in a couple of different sections. First, we'll touch on special rules that affect any units or any formations picked from this book, and then we'll touch on the detachment, and finally touch on the 7 different formations in the book and how to best apply them, or ideas on how to apply them when you're playing your games as a coveted Archon or Homunculus. So the forces of the Coven are the Gribblies, the artisans, the flesh shapers of the Dark Eldar race. And they also go to war like their Kabbalistic brothers or their cult allies as well. So, to represent this, the Coven book touches on a few things. So the forces of the Covens are bound by a few special rules. Any formations that are picked from this book, or any units that are part of a detachment from this book, the coterie, benefit from a different power from pain than the regular Dark Eldar book, benefit from the Diabolical Playthings special rule. The Warlord Trait table is different, and they have a special rule for combined units. So, power from pain. The power from pain dynamic works the same as in the Dark Eldar book. So check out the previous video. The link down in the description goes to the playlist of all the tactical series that I've done so far. So go to the Dark Eldar special rules on how that works specifically. But the 6 different choices in the power from pain change. On turn 1, nothing. On turn 2, all units become fearless. This is fantastic. That means a homunculi, like a homunculus, or Urin Rakath, those characters become fearless right on turn 1, because they add +1 to the power from pain. So you can attach them to other units in the Eldar Codex, in the Dark Eldar Codex, and make them fearless. Turn 3, they become fear and fearless, which can be useful, but fear isn't really that good, especially if you play a lot of Space Marines. Now where it starts getting interesting is turn 4, 5 and 6. Turn 4, fear, fearless, and it will not die. Fantastic on your characters, and really, really good on grotesques. Turn 5, fear, will not die, and zealot, which makes them reroll misses in combat. And that's really good as well. And turn 6, eternal warrior, fear, it will not die, and zealot. Now that's where the gravy really comes into play. Eternal warrior on grotesques, it will not die to get wounds back. Like, all of a sudden towards the end of the game you have units that are very, very nasty in combat. They can really put up a fight. And if you've been playing them right, they're just steamrolling. They're very hard to deal with, which is fantastic for later in the game. Diabolical Playthings, the Coven book has its own list of war gear. I'm not going to go into much detail about the war gear itself, because it's all very situational and really depends on the list you're building. But, they range from 10 to 35 points. And, things like the Sump, or the Vexita Mask, or the Orb of Despair, or the Herbivores, or the Perverted, or the Nightmare Doll, which a lot of folks will remember from the old Dark Eldar Codex. And they each have different things. They're very specific. Some more useful than others. Some great for little league games and sort of thing. Now, the meat and potatoes of this book are the Power from Pain chart. The Warlord trait table can be useful. Personally, you have like the Master Artisan is all friendly Talos and Kronos models within 12 inches. Reroll Feel No Pains of 1. Not bad. Master Regenicist. Warlord and any grotesque models in a unit have the will not die special rule. So that can be handy right off the bat. As long as the Warlord is alive, you can add or subtract 1 from reserve rolls. Like an Autarch. That, personally, I actually really like. It's one of the better ones. Master Epicurean. If the Warlord was slain by an attack or weapon that was either AP1, AP2, or instant death, you score D3 victory points. So if you sacrifice a Warlord, you're giving up Warlord point, but you might get D3 points. Kind of handy if you like suiciding your characters. Master of Apotheosis. Warlord and any rack models in the unit have Feel No Pain 4+. Makes racks a little tougher. And Master Nemesine. Warlord has preferred enemy, which then allows his unit to have preferred enemy. So the Warlord traits themselves are very useful, especially if you were to build a list around the Coven Detachment, which is what we're going to talk about next, and you had a Homunculus Warlord specifically. So the Coven Detachment is a detachment you can choose to run within your list. In 7th edition, of course, you can run detachments like a Combined Arms Detachment from the main rulebook. You can add formations, you can add Allied Detachment with a specific kind of detachment, or you can add book-specific detachments. Lots of the new codexes have their own detachments, and of course the supplements themselves. The Covenite Detachment is different, as in it only uses Covenite units. Urian Rakath, Homunculus, Raiders and Venoms that have to be taken as dedicated transports, Racks, Grotesques, Talos and Kronos. So all the stuff that the Homunculus would use is a very restrictive list of units. And what you get is the ability to take a lot of them. Up to 6 HQs, up to 8 elite choices, which is Racks and Grotesque units, and up to 4 heavy support units. Units of Talos, units of Kronos. So you can build a huge army around it. You have to take 2 HQs and 2 elites, so you need to take at least 2 Homunculus and 2 units, either Grotesques or Racks. So there's a couple of special rules. Seeker of Torment. If your Warlord is from the detachment, they can reroll the Warlord trait on the Warlord table. And Freakish Spectacle, which is all enemy units within 12 inches, suffer a -1 penalty to their leadership value. Now, the Freakish Spectacle special rule is really good, especially against armies that are not fearless. With the -1 leadership, you can force leadership tests and really put some pressure on key points of the enemy. Throw up like a raider from the detachment. It's a scary raider. And then shoot at unit nearby and combine it with something like the Armor of Misery, which is another -2 to your leadership within 6 inches, and your enemy's taking leadership tests at -3. Combine it with Psychic Shriek from the Eldar book, to get that -1 leadership, so that they're taking the leadership at -1 when you're rolling the dice and trying to do damage. So those little things really come in handy. Now, the meat and potatoes of the book are the 7 Coven detachments. So I'm going to touch on every single one individually, and I'll be a little faster than I have in the past because I want to get through these so I can kind of talk a little bit more about each one specifically. One of my favourites is a Grotesquerie. 2 units of Grotesques with either a Homunculus or Urian Rakath. There's no restrictions, so you can put them in Raiders, you can run them on foot if you want, etc. They are a Freakish Spectacle, -1 leadership to enemy units within 12, and they have a rule's latest experiments. You roll on a chart. It's kind of like combat drugs, but for Grotesques. It's awesome. They either get +1 strength or +1 toughness, which is, +1 toughness is awesome. They either get Fleet or Shred, which is amazing, Rage, which is really good when charging, and or Feel No Pain 4+. Every single one of those is useful. It's useful against pretty much everything, either tanks or high infantry, high toughness infantry, or when they get shot at, or whatever it is. It's really good. Many homunculi believe the creation of fleshy horrors to be the pinnacle of their esoteric craft. They maintain that to take an uninspiring form and transform it into a work of dark magnificence is to prove oneself superior to the idiot biology of nature. These master flesh crafters constantly try to outdo each other by crafting ever more violent and outlandish grotesques. Some of their creations are seething hulks of muscle and hypersteroid. Others, living weapons, platforms that boast a variety of large-scale torture implements. These muscle-bound horrors are gathered together into loose cells and led into battle by their creator. Their destructive capabilities thoroughly field-tested upon their master's chosen victims. Once their killing fury abates, they are gathered up and returned to the slab for further modifications. So, have fun with a grotesquerie if you pick one. It's about 400 points to run one, kind of like stock standard. And I highly recommend it as an addition to any Cav-like force to put some real close combat pressure on your enemy. The next is the Scarlet Epicureans. So the Scarlet Epicureans is a unit that has one Homunculus, one Cronus, and 2 units of Rex. So they have a Freaker Spectacle special rule. All units of the Rex in the formation have precision strikes, so when they go in, they can, hit characters and snipe out models and stuff like that. And the unit of Rex currently treat the turn as being one higher than it normally is when determining what special rules from Power from Pain. So it's cumulative with the Master of Pain. So starting with turn 1, and if they're, the Homunculus is with them, so they'd be turn 2, so 3. So they'd start with Fear and Fearless, and then turn 2 they'd go to Fear Fearless, and it will not die. That doesn't really help them. But Fear Fearless and then Zealot between turn 4, so they can be re-rolling hits, and they're pretty good that way as well. And if the Warlord is picked as the Homunculus, he gets the Scarlet Epicurean, which is like go and die and you get points. So I know where their craven craftworld cousins shy away from tasting the fruits of the galaxy, many homunculi love to dive into surreal extremes of sensation-seeking within the relative safety of their lairs. Having long ago grown bored of such home-brewed thrills, the Scarlet Epicureans take esoteric pleasures from the wider realms of real space. Each rapacious experience enhanced by the spirit siphon of a nearby Cronus. They may seek to taste the cerebral fluids of a visionary strategist, to feel the electric kiss of psychic lightning, to smell the pheromonal stink of mass panic, or to indulge in 1,000 stranger quests. Besides, eager to give the gifts of experience as well as to receive, the homunculi flay the skin from their rack attendants so they can better feel the hot kiss of uninhibited sensation. So, he basically rips open his racks and goes, let's go feel whatever it is we're going to feel, boys. And, I haven't really seen this formation used, but it seems fantastic for thematic play. So go ahead, if you've used it, of course, comment down below, let us know what you think. It really helps others that are trying to use these formations figure out if it's something you've had success with. The third of the formations is the Scalpel Squadron, a squadron consisting of 2 units of Rex in Venoms. They do not start on the board, and they arrive via Deep Strike on turn 1. Their special rules: Freaker Spectacle, -1 leadership. First pickings: if a unit from this formation gains first blood in a game, you gain D3 points instead of 1. This is huge. especially if you're playing an army that has like a Thunderfire cannon or a small unit that infiltrated somewhere. You deep strike them in, focus all your fire on them. If you have liquefiers in the racks, you can liquefy them and hope for first blood, and then hope for a better first blood than just 1 point. And as surgical excision, the rack units in the formation begin the game in the venom. They have to be put in reserve, etc., etc. The homunculi find it most irritating to be killed before they have had a chance to fulfill their dire agenda. Whereas sniper shot or rifle volley can be confounded, a megaton explosion is not so easily dodged. In answer to the indiscriminate firepower of man and orc, the homunculi devised scalpel squadrons, venom-born cells of racks that soar ahead of the main advance to excise the offending organ from the military body that opposes them. These forces cut across the battlefield at unseemly speed, disembarking from their skimmers to slice in the gun crews and weapon teams. Though they are usually killed by the resultant counterattack, those racks that did their duty to the Coven are later reconstituted and perhaps even raised to another circle of subservience as a reward for their selflessness. Selflessness, because we all know how it really works in Dark Eldar society. I've used a Scalpel Squadron to great effect in null deployment Dark Eldar armies. You can keep everything in reserve off the table and use a Scalpel Squadron to arrive turn 1 to prevent you from losing the game automatically. I've used this multiple times and it's been a lot of fun. Key is being smart with the Scalpel Squadron and not just sacrificing them right away, turbo boosting them behind line of sight, etc. Now, I do talk more about the use of the Scalpel Squadron in a recent podcast episode that I did with Frontline Gaming. The link will be in the description together with the link to the other tactical videos. So go ahead and check that out. We talk for about an hour on Dark Eldar specifically, matchups and whatnot. Back to this. The fourth formation is the Corpse Thief Claw. On a side note, we talk about this in the podcast too. Frankie really touches on this a lot because he uses it specifically. It's a unit of 5 Talos, and it's one big unit, and it has to be 5 Talos. They have Freaker Spectacle, they gain Scout, and they have the rule Let the Harvest Begin. They receive an extra victory point for the game for every non-vehicle unit they kill in close combat. Awesome. Game winning. This formation is 600 points of pure win. It's 7 monstrous creatures that have Scout, so they're up in your face closer. They all have twin link splinter cannons. You can upgrade them to have a variety of different close combat weapons. I recommend the Ica Gauntlet because it's good against gargantuan creatures. It's good against Wraith Knights and Riptides. It just causes instant death, and it's very, very good in that sense. The Undercity gets through a great deal of raw materials. Though the influx of experimental subjects is maintained at a constant pace, there are times when very particular specimens are required. On these occasions, the Coven's Talos are released from their duty as guard creatures and sent forth to strip out specific biological components from their unfortunate targets. Real space raids represent unparalleled opportunities for such a grisly harvest. These corpse thieves are fitted with extra flasks and plunder vials, gathered together and set upon the enemy battle line with instructions to bring back a variety of quivering organs and bubbling distillations. To the parasitic homunculi, the carnage their pain engines leave behind is a feast in itself. So use these for board control. There are 5 monstrous creatures. You put them in the center of the battlefield, put objectives in the middle, and force your opponent to deal with 5 Feel No Pain, Toughness 7, 3+ Armor Save, monstrous creatures. If they get too close, you kill them in combat, you get an extra victory point. It's amazing, and it's very hard for enemies to deal with. It is 600 points worth, but it's very hard to deal with for the enemy. The next one, number 5, the Dark Artisan formation, consists of 1 Homunculus, 1 Talos, and 1 Kronos as 1 unit combined. They have the Freakish Spectacle special rule. They have the Follow Me My Children. The means the Homunculus is not an independent character, he just stays with the unit. Master of Diabolical Machines. This formation and the Talos and Kronos add +1 to weapon skill initiative, so they're better in combat. And if the Homunculus is a Warlord, he automatically gets the Warlord trait to give Talos and Kronos' reroll Feel No Pain rolls of 1, which can make them more survivable in the long run. The homunculi known as Dark Artisans consider themselves masters of sculpting not only the physical, but also the metaphysical. Creators of living miracles, it is they who specialized in the strange birth of the Talos, the Kronos, and a dozen other engines of pain besides. They are accompanied at all times by the finest of their creations, true works of dark genius that escort their masters with an air silent menace. These sculptors of the esoteric walk a tightrope between pride and anxiety. Though a dark artisan desperately wants to show off the superiority of his beloved children in as a dramatic a theatre as possible, he cares for them as a proud father, and will wreak a terrible vengeance on any who so much as dents their perfection. It's a cool little unit. 2 monstrous creatures, a homunculus. The biggest way I've used them is you give the homunculus a webway portal, and all of a sudden you can deep strike 2 big monstrous creatures anywhere you want on the table without scattering whatsoever. If you're going to do this, I highly recommend liquefy guns. So twin liquefier on the Talos, a siphon on the Kronos, and a liquefier on the homunculus to try to get as many flamer templates as you can, because you can place them anywhere. And put them in a position of battle line that your enemy's going to have a hard time dealing with, and from there just kind of move on to an objective, or get line breaker, or really force your opponent to deal with them directly. Number 6 is the Covenite Flesh Corpse, or core really, the Flesh Corps. 1 homunculus, 3 units of Rex, and 3 raiders, and each unit of Rex must be given one of the formation's dedicated transports. And so it's a lot of Rex and a lot of raiders. They are Freakish Spectacle, they're -1 leadership to the enemy, and the Master of Flesh. As long as the formation homunculus is alive, his Master of Pain special will affect all units within Rex of this formation within 12. So he kind of becomes a mini Uri and Rakath for the Rex, giving them all fearless right off the bat, and then helping them beef up as the game goes on. Furthermore, if the formation homunculus is your army's warlord, he automatically gets the Master of Apotheosis Warlord trait, giving all the Rex Feel No Pain 4+. So if you want like an army themed around Rex, and you want the Rex to be really tough, that's probably your choice. You can run them around, and they're in raiders, so you can rush them up the enemy. I haven't actually personally used this formation. Cool thing is, it doesn't say that the unit of Rex has to be huge, so you could run a smaller formation with like units of 5 Rex or units of 10 Rex. When pillaging real space, each coven, regardless of its goals, will ensure that it is accompanied by a great many Rex. Some homunculi prefer to foster the proper air of terror by sending their minions into battle on foot, each cell advancing towards the foe in a slow but implacable coterie of killers that cannot be stopped by anything short of total annihilation. When such theatrics are impractical, the Coven Lords will instead bid their Flesh Corps ride anti-gravity skimmers adorned with the remains of their previous conquests, striking from hidden webway portals like spiders bursting from burrows to pounce on their prey. The Covenites dive into enemy battle line, maim or kill their choicest foes, and seize the rest to suffer a far darker fate. So, if you're going to run racks, a lot of racks, I would recommend taking the flesh core over the Coven Detachment, simply because you'll need one homunculus, so you save some points that way. Other than that, yeah, have fun collecting some of that. It'd be kind of cool. I don't have that many racks, but when I do, you might actually see me run this sometime in one of my battle reports, which you can always check out on the channel. And last but not least, the 7th and ultimate formation is the Carnival of Pain, which is a formation of formations. So you take every single of the 6 formations that we have currently discussed, and you run them all in one giant formation called the Carnival of Pain. So you have a Grotesquerie, a Scarlet Epicureans, a Scalpel Squadron, Corpseath Claw, a Dark Artisan formation, and the Covenite Flesh Corps. And they must all adhere to their own restrictions detailed in their formation book, and they gain a couple of special rules. The Lord of Pain, so Urien Rakarth, or the main homunculus from the Grotesquerie, is alive. His Master of Pain special rule affects all non-vehicle units in formation. So every single model in the formation has +1 to their power from Pain roll. The Torturer's Arts, all the non-vehicle models from the Carnival of Pain reroll failed of roll wounds to 1 in close combat. So it's a pseudo preferred enemy, sort of preferred enemy. So ultimately, if you want to collect a coven, you can aim for something huge like this. 5 Taloses, bunch of Venoms, Racks and Raiders, Grotesques and Raiders, whatever it is that you want to run. And it really kind of epitomizes the Coven book as a whole, but it's kind of impractical in terms of just regular one-off games, because it's a lot of models and a lot of points. So let me know which one is your favorite. Now I get to chat a little bit about using those within the Dark Eldar army. Now, depending on your gaming group, the use of formations, or how many detachments and formations, or your tournament scene, it really determines how well you can take advantage of this book. If you're running 7th edition at its core without any modifications, you can really pick and choose anything you want. So you could pick Dark Eldar Combined Arms Detachment, using like an Archon as an HQ, and using a couple of Cabalite Warriors and Venoms, and a Razorwing as a fast stack choice, and a Ravager as a heavy support choice. And then run a Coven Detachment together with the Dark Eldar CAD Detachment with 2 Homunculus, also run 2 Talos and 2 units of Racks in Raiders, for example, and then run a Scalpel Squadron for deep striking shenanigans, and a Grotesquerie to make the Grotesque that you have better, because that chart with the Grotesquerie is amazing. And then have an allied detachment with Eldar allies, with an Autarch and a unit of Eldar jet bikes, and then have another allied detachment with Corsairs from the Imperial Armor book. So it really use it to complement it. That this book here is a lot more about giving this book here resiliency and close combat capability. And I just hit myself in the face, so that's pretty funny. And close combat capability, which the Dark Eldar book really needs. So let me know what you think. Thanks a lot for subbing, liking, subscribing, and commenting. Let us know what you've used and how you would use it. Check out the other videos in the tactical series by linking down below and looking at the playlist, as well as the special podcast with Frontline Gaming, so go out and check them out over there. I'm on a goal this year to get to 8,000 YouTube subscribers, so you can always click on the subscribe button right here, and subscribe to the channel, show your support, share the videos. This is Skari, your grateful host. Stay tuned for battle reports and tactical videos. The next thing we talk on, we shall see. See you next time. This is Skari, out.